here's Brody Brazil.
Here on the YouTube channel, we obviously talk a lot about the complications of sports relocations and the effect they have on certain populations, but dare I say there's not too many situations like what we're still witnessing in St. Louis. 8 years. Has it been 8 years since the Rams departed? And yeah, that's the former TWA Dome, eventually the Edward Jones Dome. It's where the greatest show on turf occurred for those handful of years right around the turn of the century. It's got a different name now, but this building, if you can believe it, is still being partially funded by the Rams due to a lawsuit that they had to settle on. Let me explain exactly what's going on here. You need to know the history and the backstory first before we can get to today and what's happening at this building. A 2017 lawsuit was filed against the Rams because of their departure in 2016. They went back out to Los Angeles. Their owner, Stan Kroenke, was a big part of building SoFi Stadium, which are the Rams and Chargers eventually bunked up together. They got bunk beds at SoFi Stadium. They share that facility. But St. Louis, because of the way the Rams left and everything deceptively that was going on, and the Rams were trying to make sure that that stadium was in the top third of all NFL venue rankings, and it couldn't be. It was 15 and then 20 years old, and you couldn't keep up with the Edward Joneses. No, that's the name of the state. Never mind, you get what I'm trying to say. It's hard, right? It's hard to have your venue, your stadium, be at that top third level of however they were ranking these. But that language was in the contract. The Rams kind of used that as their out, one of their outs. There was also a dispute about parking and a parking garage. They used a couple things contractually to say, oh, we have an exit here. We're going to make our exit. And yeah, it just didn't ever really have a great feeling about it. So the lawsuit had a couple claims. One, that the NFL violated its own relocation policy. And two, there was another claim that the Rams engaged in deceptive practices to mislead St. Louis. Like, hey, we're going to stay, keep fixing this up, keep pumping money into it, and then, oh, peace out, see you later, we're gone. And so it took a handful of years through 2018, 19, 20, but eventually in 2021, the NFL and the Rams come to a $790 million settlement. Now, look, moving a team is expensive. Building SoFi Stadium is really expensive. I don't know that the Rams or the NFL really lost a ton of sleep over $790 million. But if you're thinking about this logistically, I mean, all the fixes that were required to that stadium could have been paid alone for $790 million. And now that's kind of the penalty and the punishment to the Rams for leaving the way they did. How do you break down this $790 million settlement from a couple years ago, handful of years ago at this point? $250 million went to the city of St. Louis, $169 million went to the county, $70 million went to the St. Louis Regional Convention and Sports Authority. I want you to remember that $70 million because we're going to talk more specifically about that in a second. And then $275 million went to attorney fees and interest. Wow, that's a huge cut of the winnings right there. Close to $1 billion, well, near $1 billion, and $275 go to attorney fees and interest. But $70 million to the Regional Convention and Sports Authority, and now they are putting it to good use here at the Dome at America's Center. That's a mouthful. They got to get a naming rights sponsor. I know they don't have a bunch of events there. It's really more of a convention center where a UFL team, the Battlehawks, play, and great for them for kind of filling a void in St. Louis and what football fans certainly want out there. But yeah, again, this building has had a couple different names: Trans World Dome, Edward Jones Dome. The Rams spent 21 seasons in St. Louis. It's a big stadium. It seats 67,000 plus for NFL games. Glad that somebody's using it in a football capacity. The UFL's Battlehawks, again, they've been pretty popular there. But overall, this building is not getting a ton of big-time use. They're not drawing all the top acts. They obviously don't have an NFL team, so they're not viewed, this building is not viewed necessarily as like a top-tier facility, sports facility around the country. It was never that highly regarded. It never got fixed up, but now they're kind of worried they're at this breaking point of, well, if we don't start investing in this, it may not even be suitable for us or productive for us for the next 10, 20 years. And it kind of stinks, right? That the Rams had this stadium built for coming out to St. Louis. It was built. And then they left 21 seasons later. And now St. Louis is kind of stuck with this dinosaur of a building. At least there was that settlement. And at least there is that amount of money to kind of take care of things like updates and repairs. And the building, again, it's getting use. It's not exactly thriving. They need to make sure that they can be ready for what's next and what's around the corner. $54 million in upgrades is what that building is getting out of that $74 million cut. Is that what we said? 70-something million dollar cut for the Sports Authority. This is going to happen over the next several years. This was launched by the Regional Convention and Sports Complex Authority. Via a press release, the authority said this, quote, "The funding comes exclusively from the Rams Settlement and Preservation Funds, which are earmarked for dome maintenance and improvements. This investment will enhance the visitor experience, improve facilities, and boost the dome's competitiveness as a venue for world-class concerts, conventions, and sporting events," end quote. And I realize there's a lot of people on this channel who are, angry at certain teams for certain moves they've made and, kind of leaving a city and a fan base in the dust, extincting a fan base, if you will, in certain situations. But here the Rams are. They've already paid this money, but now this money is paying off for St. Louis and this building because of the departure. It really is kind of payback, literally payback. $54 million of upgrades. How do you spend that? $37.5 on media and tech enhancements. I imagine that's new jumbo screens and probably signage and just making all of the tech a lot more modern in the building. $8.2 million for escalators and elevators. $7.4 million for mechanical infrastructure. Whatever that is, that seems like a lot of toilets to me. And $855,000 to upgrade food service at the Dome at America's Center. Here's kind of the issue, though. This may not cover everything. There's apparently another $155 million this building might need. Now, need versus want, I'm not clear on that part. You'd have to think, right? For $54 million, you should be able to fix most problems that this building might have. We're not trying to renovate the whole thing. If we're just trying to keep it functional, like 54 mil should get you places. Do you need the full almost $200 million? This is Earl Nance Jr. He's the authority chairman who said, quote, "The Dome has needed these repairs, I'd say, for about the last 2 to 3 years. It's evident that we need them. It's a matter of staying on top. We're going to have to do that, but we're going to also have some reserves and have some left over. Yes, it's preventative maintenance." So they're saying they still have another $20 million. They're going to spend $50. But that report by a couple media outlets in St. Louis saying that the building could need $155 million to finish off all these repairs and all these ambitions, that might be a little bit more concerning. But again, it's rare that you even hear something like this, a team leaving, getting sued, having to settle for that large amount of money, and then that money being earmarked to keep up the stadium that they abandoned. I just figured to some of you that might be a refreshing silver lining of a dark cloud, right? Because how often do you hear about something like that? Usually the team departs the city, that's the last you hear of them, and there's no more connections. But in this case, St. Louis went out, sued the Rams, sued the NFL, they won, got a lot of money, and now they're putting it to good use. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there helps me, the video, and the channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you back here next time.